So the first video in 3.7, what we're going to be doing is learning what determinants are. Every square matrix has a determinant. And so we are going to deal with second order determinants, which are determinants of 2 by 2s, and then third order determinants, which are determinants of 3 by 3 matrices. So second order determinant, what we do, so we can write determinant of, there's two different notations that you'll see. Determinant of, first we could write it just like this, because you know the square brackets are what denote a matrix. So you can either literally write the word DET, abbreviation for determinant, and then keep the square brackets like this to denote a matrix, or if you see them inside just bars like this, if you see an array, you know, rows, columns, all of that inside just bars like this, that means you're looking for the determinants. That's what this means right here. So the way we take the determinant is we cross multiply top left to bottom right. So cross multiply the A times D and then subtract the other multiple, this, B times C. All right, so that is how we do the second order determinant. So you're just cross multiplying and subtracting. So starting from the upper right. So this one in particular, we start upper left to the bottom right. So it is 6 times 0 minus, and then we cross multiply the other diagonal. Okay, so 6 times 0 is 0, minus -1 times positive 4 is -4. So that turns to plus a positive, and so this determinant is 4. So evaluating the 2 by 2s is as simple as that. So make sure that you have this in front of you while you're working on your homework. Third order determinants are a little bit more complicated because what you're taking the determinant of has many more pieces to it. So a 3 by 3 would look like this. So all of a sudden we're going from 4 elements to 9. So what I'm going to do is I am going to write down a step-by-step process. As I'm writing down that step-by-step process, I'm going to walk us through example 2. Okay, so step 1. Step 1 is that you write the first 2 columns over to the right. Oops, it should be on. Okay, so rewrite the first 2 columns on the rights. Okay, so we're going to go down to example 2. I'm going to kind of walk you through what it looks like with that. So we are going to rewrite the first 2 columns. So rewrite column 1 like that, and then rewrite column 2. Okay, so that's the first step. And then we're going to do the diagonal thing that we did with second order determinants. It just gets a little bit more complicated. Okay, so step 2. What we do in step 2 is we draw diagonals starting with the upper left corner. Okay, so we draw diagonals starting with the upper left-hand corner, and then we are going to multiply the elements together. Okay, so we're going to do all the downward diagonals. So just like we did up here, we multiplied from the upper left down, and we multiplied those elements together, and that's what we wrote right here. Of course, this one was much simpler because we only had 1 diagonal. Here, as we're going down, we're going to have 3 total diagonals. So we're going to multiply -8 times -5 times +1. So multiply that first diagonal. So we have -8 times -5 times +1. Okay, and then we're going to keep going down, and we're going to add them all together. Okay, so multiply down, okay, and then plus -4 times -8 times +3. and then do that one more time with the third diagonal. And then plus 4 times 0 times 4. Okay, so multiply along each diagonal, and so I should add one more thing in that second. We're going to say add these products together. Okay, so that's step 2. Step 3 is now we've got all of these upward diagonals to do. Okay, so then we're going to start from the bottom left-hand corner and do this all over again. Okay, so we're drawing 3 more sets of diagonals, starting with the lower left-hand corner. We are going to, again, multiply along each diagonal. But the difference here is we are going to subtract each one of these products. So if we look back at the first one, when we multiplied these two together, like the upward diagonals, we subtracted that product. So we are going to subtract each product. Okay, very important to remember to subtract each one. So now we start from the lower left, multiply up this diagonal, we are going to subtract. So minus 3 times negative 5 times 4. Multiply this diagonal together, we're going to subtract it. So minus 4 times negative 8 times negative 8. And then this last diagonal here, we're going to subtract that as well. Minus 1 times 0 times negative 4. Okay, so just to recap what we did, we're going to compare it to this first one. You start upper left, multiply down the diagonals, and add them here. If we had more, we'd be adding them together. And then start from the lower left, multiply the diagonals, and subtract. So we just did it kind of 3 times with each one of these. So start upper left, multiply down the diagonals here, second one here, third one here. All of those get added, and then we start from the lower left, multiply up, and each one of those products get subtracted. Okay, so depending on how big or small the numbers are, you may or may not be able to do a lot multiplying in your head. And one note is that our favorite number to come across is 0, because anything that involves a 0, when you multiply them all together, like that goes to 0, that goes to 0. When you multiply anything by 0, no matter how many other elements you have, you're just going to end up with a 0. Okay, so the last thing is we're just going to simplify everything up. Okay, so this equals, so negative 8 times negative 5 is 40 times 1, it's still 40, plus negative 4 times negative 8 is positive 32, times 3 gives us 96, plus 0, we know this next one is 0, and then minus 3 times negative 5 is negative 15, and then times 4 would be negative 60, so minus negative 60, minus 4 times negative 8 is negative 32, and then times negative 8 again would be negative 250, I'm sorry, positive 256, and then minus 0. Okay, so we're going to combine these all up. So plus a positive would be 60, so at this point you can just plug this into your calculator. So positive 40 plus 96 plus 60, and then minus 256. Okay, so what we end up with there would be a negative 60. Okay, so that's the determinant. And then the first thing on the next page, we're just going to skip. That thing about triangles, we're just going to skip over that.